Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
So the big challenge is, how can house owners like you and me get a flood-free home? How can business managers like you and me get a flood-free company? And how can public servants provide flood-free critical infrastructure and livable cities?
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe. This podcast is for foresighted and proactive people who do not want to shovel the muddy water out of their room while standing in the midst of the disaster.
Therefore, those who design and plan, the architects and engineers, need to construct such buildings and cities, and that even when the entire environment is completely flooded. That is a challenge, and this podcast will give the answers.
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
Hello and welcome. It's another episode of Flood Protection Secrets, and today I want to discuss a little bit how you can protect an underground garage from heavy rain and flooding. So for all those who say, "Oh, I don't have an underground garage, I even don't have a garage," okay, it's perhaps not perfectly for you, but you will learn a lot of things how to protect the building, and at the end it doesn't play any role whether it is an underground garage, so a basement in a way, or it is a ground floor, or it is your garage. So in any case, I suggest or I recommend that you stay tuned and you listen because I want to talk about the importance of a wise selection process that is necessary, and that is true for all kind of flood protection secrets and for all flood protection projects. So today, we talk about underground garage, and the first question is, what shall be protected? So yes, underground garage, you think immediately about an underground car park, but it's not just cars. In huge underground garages, as they are existing in commercial centers, for instance, or for hotels, there you find more than the cars. Yes, you park your cars. The employees might park the cars over there. You have permanent locators who might live in the 14th floor or 40th floor and who park their cars over there. But most probably you also find the generator sets. That means all these gen sets which provide the electricity for the whole building. A warehouse, it can serve as a warehouse for supermarket, coffee shops. So all kind of deliveries. So I was in a huge building in Doha in Qatar, and there was a French supermarket at the ground floor, and Starbucks and other coffee shops and so on and so forth, an electronic shop, so for electronic items, for smartphones and so on, and the basement, the underground garage, served as a warehouse for all these coffee shops. That was not only one coffee shop, there were several coffee shops. And I was really enjoying it because I was watching this fabulous FIFA World Cup stadium there in Doha. They have several, of course. And we could sit outside. It was not too hot. And we enjoyed the beautiful, beautiful coffee and a piece of cake. And when we went down to the underground garage, we realized that many areas served as the warehouse for all these coffee shops. So there were even tiles for carpet tiles for the commercial center above, and that were stored over there. Elevators, you can find elevator access, of course. In some underground garage, there are special elevators, especially for the chairman. That is what you find in the Middle East and in highly developed. It has nothing to do with developed buildings or not. In some buildings, so you have special elevators only for the chairman. That is what I've seen in Dubai, for instance. So, and these elevators might be ready to use. So that means the elevator is at the lowest level. It's parking until the chairman will arrive by car. You will also find IT and camera monitoring installations. So these rooms with all these electronic devices. Very often it's located in the underground garage. So what is the specialty? Such a garage has an entry and an exit lane. Sometimes it is at the same part. That means one side at one side. Depends where you are, whether it's you drive at the left side or at the right side. So it doesn't play any role. So at one side you enter and the other side you exit. It can be at one ramp, but it can also be that you have a second location, a second so-called ramp to go underground. So it can be at the other side, at the entrance perhaps is at the eastern side of the building and the exit is at the west side of the building. So what? That is also possible. So that means you only have one way at the entrance and one way at the exit. But it doesn't play any role. What is special? Special is that you have an upper part of the ramp, then comes the ramp. So you drive to the garage, to the underground garage, and you have a lower part of the ramp. That is where the ramp ends. And the question now is how to find the right flood protection solution to protect you from heavy rain and flooding. So you need temporarily installed flood barriers in case of emergency. And the question now is first, where do you protect these barriers? We always talk about where do you install these barriers. Sorry, I always talk about the first thing is let me tell it in advance. First, what the people think is they want to protect it at the bottom. Then I always say, okay, let's protect it. How high shall it be protected? Up to the upper side. Okay, sometimes it is 4 meters or 6 meters opening height. That means, and then I ask the people, do you really want to have a flood barrier that is 6 meters high? First, I don't know any. I mean, these things are existing, but that is heavy duty already, and you take that at the entrance of the sea at Venice in Italy, for instance. So we are not talking about these heavy duty installations because you cannot afford it. That is much too expensive. No, I talk about these flood barriers for buildings, and there is no flood barrier existing that reaches 6 meters height. You can imagine the water pressure. So you need a very huge installation, and you cannot. You need steel, and that is very, very heavy. The weight is tons and tons of the material. So that is not a solution. And then the people start thinking. I said, yeah, and then you need, of course, a four-sided sealed protection. Yeah, that's true, because this ramp serves as a bathtub. It is the same thing. Or even don't think about the bathtub, think about your lavatory. And when you wash your hands or your toothbrush. So the moment you close it and you open the faucet, at this moment it will be filled with water. And once it is filled, it will overflow. And that is the same thing what will happen to your ramp. So we talk about the first protection, the primary protection, not at the lower side, at the upper side, because at this moment we don't need to protect it 6 meters high. Perhaps it is enough to protect it only with 1 meter height or 1 meter 20 or 150 or something like that. Sometimes even 600 millimeters are enough, so almost half a meter, because the water level is not too much, but it is enough to fill the basement parking. I have seen a basement parking with 3 levels in the Middle East, and that was filled with water up to the upper level. So everything was destroyed. The generator room was destroyed. The room with the IT and camera monitoring was destroyed. The elevator for the shaman was destroyed. And at another basement underground garage, all the deliveries, these were carpet tiles for the commercial center above, completely destroyed. You could throw it away. You have millions of dollars damages, not to talk about all the cars you are losing. And very often, that is an average number. Very often I hear about 35, 40, 48, 50 cars, and in Dubai and Doha, that means these are very high-end and luxury cars, because most of the people drive these expensive cars, and the insurance only pays once. So we protect at the upper side of this ramp. That is what we call the primary line of defense. And then it can be that perhaps your estimation was wrong, because you estimated that the protection height of 1 meter might be enough. And suddenly the rain is so heavy, what we see everywhere in the world right now, even recently in Germany, it happened again. And basements were flooded, and underground parkings were flooded. Because the water was so much and more than before, and always more than expected. So forget everything what the weather report is telling you. I always say it's completely wrong. It doesn't help you, because every situation is completely new. And you cannot anticipate it. It is quite impossible to tell how high the water will be, and not to forget the waves. That means you have a kinetic energy. Sometimes cars are driving outside, and buses or trucks, and sometimes even without driving cars and trucks, because when the water is already 1 meter high or 150, no cars driving anymore. They're only swimming. But the street becomes a river, and a very nasty river, angry river. And these waves are destroying everything. That means they will immediately overflow your barrier. You know that from the sea, the wave is always higher at the top. It's 1 meter, 2 meters high. That is a wave. That is what is called a wave. So it will overflow your barrier for your underground garage. And the question now is how you protect it, because you have a protection already. So what do you do with this overflowing water? The answer is you install a secondary protection at the lowest part of the ramp. The question arises again, how high shall be this protection? So you can do it 1 meter, you can do it 2 meters. I always say it must be reasonable, and it depends on the volume of water that you expect. And it depends on the length, as well. So on the volume that can be withheld by your ramp, that can be calculated. And because your ramp serves as a kind of tank, that is, when you have a barrier at the top and the barrier at the bottom, that is like a swimming pool. That means you fill it from the ground. So the water is overflowing from the top, is flowing down, and then it will increase. So perhaps you protect with 1 meter at the bottom, or 1 meter 50. But it will still overflow at the top. What do you do if it still overflows? Then, of course, it will fill your ramp slowly but surely. But you have some time. And what you can do is a tertiary line of defense. So number 3, you install submersible pumps, and you pump the water over the railing. So back to the street. There's already enough water. So you just pump it back. And the trick is that you pump it back faster than it is overflowing at the top. Yeah, that doesn't work with all the water that is reaching the ramp without flood protection at the top. So you need already something, and you only take care about the overflowing water, and that is the tertiary line of defense. That is the solution. So what type of flood barriers? You know me very well. I always distinguish between these 4 groups, or normally the top 3. These are the portable flood barriers, so demountable flood barriers and mobile flood barriers. Group number 2 are flood doors, flood gates. In this case, we talk about flood gates. That is helpful for entrances, perhaps up to 4 meters, something like that. 4 meter 20, 3 meter 80, around 4 meters. That can be easily protected. Yes, you can also do that with floodgates with a middle support at two sides. So if you have an entry and exit lane, you can put a floodgate at the left side with about 4 meters and the one at the right side with 4 meters. That makes 8 meters in total. And plus in the middle, perhaps 1 meter. So that is an opening width of 9 meters plus something at the left and right side. So you can close an opening of about 10 meters with these floodgates. That is possible. That is group number 2. Group number 3 are the automatic systems. Automatic flip-up flood barriers, like this Anham flip-up flood barrier, or the AHS flip-up flood barrier with electric systems and pneumatic systems, hydraulic systems, or self-rising flood barriers, also possible. But very often you don't have the space below. That depends on your building. When do you use flip-up flood barriers? When do you use self-rising flood barriers? And number 3 is a drop-down flood barrier coming from the top. So it's parked above your ramp, so flat against the wall of the building. So these are the 3 groups, and there's group number 4. These are the glass barriers, but that is not for that doesn't fit for our system here. So very important is the influence of the existing building. So what kind of walls do you have? What kind of posts do you have? Is there an electric barrier to let in the cars? Yes or no? Are there curved curbstones? Yes or no? So you must know all these things that you can define the civil works that are required. And a very important question, and very often forgotten by the people and by the architects, that is there a drainage discharge existing or not? We need to know that the moment it comes to automatic systems, because the automatic systems work with, they detect the water inside a drainage area. And the moment this drainage area is filled too fast and there's too much water, then a sensor it's not only a sensor. Then let me say it this way: that can trigger a signal to open or to move these automatic flood barriers to close this entrance. And the last point that you need to consider for the protection of your underground garage, your underground car park, that is definitely the influence of the existing manpower. I hear that all the time. The people, especially in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia, they always tell me, "Oh, don't worry, we have enough people." Hey, come on. In case of emergency, these people are not around. And don't tell me that there are enough people. Yes, there are enough people and they think there are sheep people. But first you need to have educated and skilled people. And these people, sorry to say, are not educated enough and not skilled enough to handle such systems. And you play with the safety of your building. You play with the safety of your cars, of your high-end cars. The gensets, the warehouse for the supermarket, the coffee shops. So, for instance, all the deliveries that have been stored over there. The elevator, the IT and camera monitoring room with all the electronic devices. You want to make it up to the decision of these people who are not educated enough. Yes, you might say, that sounds a little bit arrogant. No, it is not arrogant. That is my experience. You need to teach these people, but you need to teach 20, 30 of these people because you never know who is on duty. You have day shift, you have night shift, or you have 3 shifts. And you must think about 365 days, depending whether you have Ramadan, Chinese New Year, end of the year, Christmas, or whatever celebration you just have. Even at these days, and for whatever reason, disasters very often happen around these celebration days. The people must be there, they must know what to do, and they must do it in the right way. That is why I highly suggest always to use automatic systems for larger units, especially when it comes to 5-star hotels, when it comes to larger ramps of buildings that might be deserted in economic zones, for instance. IT parks, as an example, as I've seen that in Dubai. So at this point, it is really important to have a good mixture. Sometimes people tell me, yeah, we can install an automatic system at the top, so the primary line of defense of the ramp, but at the bottom, we will install some demountable flood barriers. And then I always make a break and I say, how do you install these demountable flood barriers at the bottom in case of emergency? Yeah, we will send the people. And then I tell them, and how do the people get underground? How do they reach this point? Because at the top there is a barrier and the whole area is already flooded. You have no time to install these things. And if you start to install it before, people will drive from the top and they arrive at the bottom. Sometimes it's curved. You don't see the end of this ramp. And then you have a serious situation, a lot of discussion with these people that will never work. So don't do that. That is why I highly suggest to start your project, your flood protection project for an underground garage, always with a project planning and an engineering assessment, because all these questions must be answered before you start doing it, because if not, you spend a lot of money for the investment and at the end it will not work and you get flooded. So these were my suggestions and my comments to protect an underground garage. The underground garage is not just for cars, but also for all the other expensive and valuable items that are stored in these basements. I hope that you join again at the next episode of Flood Protection Secrets. And as always, I finish with stay safe and flood free. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with a new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.thefloodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering. German quality. Safe. Flood protection secrets. The secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.